We're back with the UFC here in 2025, and we've waited 3 weeks for this, and we get Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas in the UFC Apex. Why? Like, we couldn't just, you couldn't make the pay-per-view this weekend? Like, we can get Makhachev, Sarukian, and Merab and Umar on this card. I mean, not in the Apex, obviously, in Los Angeles, but, oh, man. Well, we're going to predict every single fight on this card. I don't know if the general public's going to be watching this because I believe, the NFL playoffs are going to be on during this. But you know what? I'll watch. And if you're watching this video, you're probably watching too. So let's do it, folks. 14 fights for the UFC here to kick off 2025 in the UFC Apex. In the main event, obviously the rematch between Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas in the women's strawweight division. And folks, if you have not yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly UFC predictions here on the channel. We're going to be doing UFC predictions all year long. Additionally, Bellator, if they're still around, PFL, and the Global Fight League as well. We're going to be predicting every single card for all 4 of these organizations this year. And if you haven't heard of the Global Fight League, oh my goodness, guys, Wanderlei Silva is going to be fighting this year. And he might be fighting like Luke Rockhold. And then also we might get to watch, I don't know, Waldo Cortez, no, he's in the UFC. Robles de Spain, I don't know why I got those two mixed up. We might watch like Robles de Spain fight, I don't know, Junior Dos Santos this year in the Global Fight League as well. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to be predicting those cards. The draft is in a couple weeks. I guess we'll talk about that when we get there. So yes, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more weekly MMA content here on the channel. We also do daily college basketball best bets. Again, those are posted every single morning, as well as our daily NBA predictions as well. We also do weekly college football predictions. Obviously, that's coming to an end very shortly. And weekly NFL predictions. We're going to be taking that into the playoffs, obviously, next week. Okay, let's get into the first of these 14 fights, and we start off 2025 with a fight that just got announced. 2 fights just got reworked on this card. It's originally supposed to be Nurullo Aliev taking on Yanal Ashmoz, but as of this morning, I'm recording this on Saturday, January 4th, the fight just got switched to Joe Solecki versus Nurullo Aliev. Feels like a pretty good spot for Nurullo Aliev here. It just does, let's be honest. Aliev, undefeated name. Joe Solecki coming off of a loss in back-to-back losses to Dakar Close and Grant Dawson. Now, given again, it's probably the best guy Yanal Ashmoz, Nurullo Aliev has fought going from Yanal Ashmoz to Joe Solecki. For Aliev, only 1 fight so far in the UFC. That comes back in February of 2023, and it's a majority decision victory over Rafael Alves. What did he do in that fight? He kind of just took Alves down and kind of laid on him, if we're being honest. You look at Joe Solecki, a guy, again, who's got a very good ground game as well. He's got 8 submission victories in his professional MMA career. 2 of them come in the UFC. You've got a submission victory over Carl Deaton, who wasn't the best UFC name, and then another submission victory over Austin Hubbard, who, that was his first stint in the promotion. Hubbard's never been too much of a threat in the UFC. Solecki's best victory is Jim Miller, picking up that win back in April of 2021, but what has Solecki done since? Again, in the last 2 years, you look at 2023, starts the year by beating Deaton, gets slammed TKO'd by Dakar Close in San Antonio, and then loses to Grant Dawson in New Jersey on the Makhachev Poirier card by unanimous decision. I think Aliev should just be able to out-wrestle Joe Solecki in this fight. That's really what we're expecting here. We're expecting a dominant wrestling performance out of Aliev. Now, his last fight against Alves, right? He wins. He wins the first round. I think they gave him the first round. It's a weird card because Aliev gets takedowns against Rafael Alves, but really doesn't do much with them. Like the first round, Aliev gets a takedown. He's got ground control for 3.5 minutes in that round. I think this is the round he loses because he doesn't punch him once. He doesn't have any significant strikes in that round. He gets rounds 2 and 3. Because he actually starts doing damage on the ground and because he had more control time in those rounds. But, yeah, Aliev's not the most impressive guy, at least so far. We haven't seen him, do too much work once the fight hits the mat. He doesn't have a submission victory yet in his career. He only has 2 wins by TKO. Those come by the Contender Series victory, where he was a -625 favorite, finishing Josh Wick on that card, and then a corner stoppage back in May of 2018. So I wouldn't expect to finish in this fight. But I do think Aliev is the better guy in this one. And also we have to consider Aliev's only 24 years old. So when he made his UFC debut, he was, 22, which is kind of crazy. We're in 2025 now. Oh, man. So he was 2022 when he, sorry, 2022. When he was 22 when he made his UFC debut, you got to think again. The Tajik Eagle from Tajikistan has only gotten better since that fight back in 2023 against Alves, and also Solecki coming off back-to-back losses, taking this fight on short notice. Again, originally supposed to be an Alhassan. I think Aliev again, even though yes, Solecki does have better names on his resume in terms of wins, I do think again Aliev should be able to handle him pretty easily. I'd expect a wrestling heavy approach at Aliev, and again with Solecki taking this fight on short notice, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for him to straight up win the fight. I think Aliev wrestles a lot, and I think Aliev again just keeps top control on the ground in this fight, and I think he should be able to ride this one out for a unanimous decision victory. So give me Narulo Aliev, the Tajikistan Eagle, to win this fight to kick off 2025 by unanimous decision. To the women's strawweight division, guys, I don't know if the odds are right here. I found this on Best Fight Odds. I'm going to look again. When I was making the graphic, or honestly, okay, when I was making these graphics, I look at the fights and I'm thinking, all right, I just look at the fights before making the graphics, right? And I go over, like, in my head who I'm going to pick, right? So obviously I looked at Aliev, Solecki. I'm like, all right, we're going Aliev. Dudakova, Kline, my first initial reaction, I thought to myself, when I first looked at this fight, I was like, all right, Dudakova sucks. But Fatima Kline, she's all right. I'd expect her. Maybe we can get her at plus money. Maybe we get her like at minus like 150 for this fight at the worst. And then I checked the odds and Best Fight Odds, and no, these are the actual odds for the fight. Unless something's wrong here. No, DraftKings has got minus 800 for Kline. BetMGM's got minus 1,000. So I mean, I always go off of DraftKings odds. Yeah, we got minus 800 for Fatima Kline, plus 500 for Victoria Dudakova. Which is odd because on Tapology, Victoria Dudakova is the favorite. More people are picking Dudakova to win the fight. I don't see it, guys. Victoria Dudakova is horrible. Now, I don't think the odds should be like this. So if you were thinking about it, don't play minus 800 Fatima Kline. If I'm being honest with you, the value plays actually on Victoria Dudakova. All right? I don't think she'll win, but value-wise, to be honest, I don't think it's that bad of a pick. But again, I'm picking straight winners. I'm not picking, I think we can get Dudakova at plus 500. We're going to pick her. No, truly, I don't think Dudakova wins the fight. I think value-wise, though, it's not a bad play because it's women's MMA. Fatima Kline is 6-1, and Dudakova is 8-1, but she just lost to Sam Hughes. That's why she sucks, okay? It should not have been a split decision. She got dominated in that fight. It pissed me off because I made the unfortunate error of putting U.S. currency on a women's MMA fight. Don't do it. How do you lose to Sam Hughes, man? Sam Hughes is not good at fighting. God, it pisses me off. She's just bad. And she's gonna fight Stephanie Luciano. She might win because Luciano's just not that great. She's better than the other fighter though that she fought in the Contender. Who was it? God, what's her name? I don't know, dude. Low-level women's mixed martial arts. It's just. Kline should win the fight, all right? Fatima Kline should really win this one. Her first fight in the UFC was Jasmine Jasdavidius. That's a top 15 name, okay? That is a rough fight to make your UFC debut in. Fatima Kline, really good coming in from CFFC. She was the CFFC champion at strawweight. She's a fighter that can go the full distance, obviously. Dudakova looked horrible in a 3-round fight. Obviously, again, Kline and Dudakova is not a 5-round fight. But Kline should be able to just go out here and outstrike her. I really expect that. Dudakova's striking is slow. She can't really grapple all that well. What does Dudakova do well? Kline can strike and she can grapple as well. She was just outmatched in a fight that she took on short notice against a good fighter in Dudakova. Up a weight class to 125 pounds. She's down to her natural weight class here at 115. I just don't think Dudakova's good at all, okay? She's not. Her victories in the UFC are Jinyu Fry, not in the UFC anymore, and Estela Nunes was never all that good, and she won that fight because Nunes dislocated her elbow. Dudakova, prior to the UFC, really never beat anybody. Beat an 8-0 Maria Silva on the Contender Series. She's now 11-1 fighting in KSW. Why is she? Oh, wow. She might actually get another shot this year. I would expect that. Regardless, Fatima Kline should win the fight. I think she should be able to beat Dudakova literally everywhere. I'm serious. She'll beat her everywhere. Dudakova can't wrestle. She went 3 for 10 on her takedowns against Sam Hughes. Dudakova can kind of has power, but no, Kline is better, trust me. She'll win the fight by unanimous decision. Don't put your US dollar on this fight though, okay? There are much better things you can do with $1. Actually, well, you're not gonna bet $1 in this fight. A lot better things you can do with a unit than bet it on this fight. Go buy a hamburger from Five Guys. Actually, that'll run you $30, so don't do that. All right, next up we go to the light heavyweight division. We've got Magomed Gadzhiyasulov taking on Bruno Lopes. So Bruno Lopes has finally made it to the UFC after winning on the Contender Series on his second attempt. He is finally here in the promotion. I'll be honest with you guys, I immediately associate Bruno Lopes by getting knocked out by Bredsin Ribeiro in 2023 in a fight where Lopes was a minus 600 favorite. Now, again, I always kind of thought, again, if Lopes kept winning, and obviously he was the LFA champion, and he retained his LFA championship after losing to Ribeiro when he went back to LFA, I always thought, again, he was going to get another shot. And obviously he did in 2024, ended up winning the fight by TKO, getting his shot back into the UFC. Okay, he's taking on a guy here in Magomed Gadzhiyasulov, and you might immediately think, okay, Bruno Lopes lost to Bredsin Ribeiro on the Contender, and I get it, Ribeiro has been very disappointing in the UFC. He's coming off a victory over Caio Machado, but still, Gadzhiyasulov, his only fight in the UFC is Bredsin Ribeiro. He wins the fight by majority decision. It's not that good of a fight. How does Gadzhiyasulov win? He wrestles. He doesn't, on the feet, Ribeiro's getting the better of those exchanges, but again, Gadzhiyasulov's the one getting the fight on the ground. He has 10 minutes of control in that fight, and he wins it. Okay, guys, the entertaining option in this fight is that Bruno Lopes scores a knockout victory. I don't think Gadzhiyasulov finishes him on the feet. I just don't think so at all. Gadzhiyasulov, if he's going to win, he's going to wrestle Bruno Lopes, like he did against Ribeiro, and like he did against Jose Medina as well in the Contender Series. Now, Medina is a guy that the UFC ended up signing to. He wasn't very good in the UFC. He's only had one fight. I feel like he's had more. He lost to Zach Reese. I guess he gets another fight. But Medina's not that good. I don't know why the UFC signed him. Those are Gadzhiyasulov's 2 wins. This is all dependent on if Bruno Lopes can stuff a takedown. I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to be able to. So you look at his Contender Series fight against Mikhail Sanzizani, fighting out of Georgia, the Marab, Georgia, not, Atlanta. He fought a guy who was very unproven, fought a bunch of guys who were 0-1 to get his way into the Contender Series, but a guy who can wrestle, and a guy who did have wins in Octagon, and I don't think he ever won Brave, but wins in Octagon by getting fights down and winning with TKO and ground and pound once the fight's on the mat. And Bruno Lopes was able to successfully stuff all 6 of the takedowns that Mikhail shot in that fight. Now, the thing is, Mikhail did drop Bruno Lopes in that fight, but I don't really think, and honestly, I don't think Gadzhiyasulov is going to be able to drop Bruno Lopes. I don't think Lopes' chin is the best, but I think Lopes should win these exchanges on the feet. And on the ground, too, don't forget, Bruno Lopes is a pretty good jiu-jitsu guy as well, winning his fight to retain the LFA championship in his last one in LFA by submission by arm triangle in the second round. So I don't mind Bruno Lopes on the ground. And on the feet, I don't really think Gadzhiyasulov can hurt him all that much. So I think Lopes should be able to win the wrestling exchanges, I think. And on the feet, I do think Bruno Lopes is the better guy. Yeah, his chin does kind of scare me at points, but again, Bruno Lopes looked solid in his last fight, did get dropped, but I don't think Gadzhiyasulov is going to be able to put Bruno Lopes down. So I'm going to take the Brazilian in this fight. I'm going to go with Bruno Lopes. It's our first plus money pick here of the year. We're getting plus 185 on Bruno Lopes. I don't mind this at all. And if he's going to win, I think he's going to knock out Gadzhiyasulov. So give me Bruno Lopes to win this fight by second round TKO. Again, it's about time he's in the UFC. And I think he cashes in. I don't think Gadzhiyasulov's all that great. He's 9-0, and his only victory in the UFC is Ribeiro. I get it, Ribeiro beat Lopes, but these are way different style of fights. Give me Bruno Lopes to beat Magomed Gadzhiyasulov, and he will get it done by second round TKO. Let's go to the flyweight division. We have got Ernesta Kareckaite taking on Nicole Caliari in this fight. You've got the Lithuanian here in Kareckaite, who's a minus 230 favorite. And you got the Brazilian in Caliari, who is a plus 190 dog. On Tapology, Caliari is the favorite with, I believe, 69% of voters going for Caliari or picking Caliari, and 31% of the voters picking Ernesta Kareckaite out of Lithuania. Again, women's MMA, who knows? I don't think Caliari's all that great, if I'm being honest with you. Caliari, before getting on the Contender Series, has wins over Midana Fernandez, who is 0-3, Carolina Jimenez, who's 8-2, and Corinne Laframboise on the Contender Series. She submitted her with an armbar in the first round. And what Caliari does to fighters is what she does that's unlike a lot of fighters at women's flyweight and women's strawweight is that she does get finishes. She's got a 100% finish rate. All 8 of her fights have not seen the distance, or her wins. Her 2 losses are by decision and submission, but Caliari is going to go out there and she is going to try to finish you. The thing is, Ernesta Kareckaite is actually kind of an entertaining fighter. However, she lost to Dione Barbosa, which, It was a styles fight. That's all that was. Again, it was Dione Barbosa trying to grapple Ernesto Kareckaite. She was trying to push her back against the fence. And Kareckaite's obviously the better striker. If you watched her fight in the Contender Series, one of the better Contender Series women's fights you're ever going to watch. It's her win over Carly Judas. She wins the fight by split decision. Good victory. And again, it was a high volume in that fight between Kareckaite and Judas. I don't know. You look back at the Kareckaite-Dione Barbosa fight, I thought Kareckaite won, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really think Barbosa did much with their grappling, and when you really watch that fight back, 2 and 3 are Kareckaite. Round 1 is a Dione Barbosa round, but I really thought Ernesto Kareckaite should have got that nod. I understand why she didn't. The fight was in Brazil, and obviously they're going to give it to the hometown fighter at UFC 301. They're going to give it to Barbosa. But really, you look at that fight, what's the round you give Barbosa? Round 3? Probably round 2. But Kareckaite gets a takedown of her own in that fight, in that round. She outstrikes Barbosa. It's really weird. I thought Kareckaite won that one. I believe I had Barbosa parlayed in this. I had Barbosa parlayed, and I was surprised that we got the nod. So I understand why Kareckaite's a favorite. And for Nicole Kayate, I just don't think she's all that proven. Guys, she's lost outside the UFC to Kay Hansen. I know that was 2019, which is now, 6 years ago coming up on, but still, Kay Hansen's an OnlyFans girl now. Like, that's not that great of a loss. Kay Hansen was able to submit her, and for a grappler of Kayate's experience, at least we're told, losing to Kay Hansen, who I get was a hyped up prospect at one point, does not look the best. And I also think Kareckaite, who has decent grappling, she's known as a striker, but can wrestle some too. I think she's able to keep the fight on the feet, and I think she is able to outstrike Nicole Kayate in this fight. That's why we're going with the Lithuanian. Again, yes, a lot of people are on Kayate because of her grappling. I think it's overrated. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't think Kayate's all that good. And Kareckaite, we have seen her in the UFC before. She was able to arguably beat Dione Barbosa. I'd expect her to beat Nicole Kayate in this fight. We're going to go with Ernesto Kareckaite to win the fight by unanimous decision. I think she's able to keep the fight on the feet, and I just, again, don't think Kayate's all that good. I'm taking Kareckaite to win the fight by striking, and she'll win it again by unanimous decision. Let's go on to the welterweight division. We have got a very hyped up prospect in the undefeated Jacoby Smith out of AKA taking on Preston Parsons. So watching the Contender Series this year, and I think, I could be mistaken, but I believe at the end of the year when Michael Bisping, was either Bisping or DC, if it was DC, it was definitely biased, obviously, because, Jacoby Smith's an AKA guy, obviously in San Jose, but I think it was Bisping who made his rankings of the top prospects coming out the Contender Series this season. And Jacoby Smith, if I remember, was at the very top of the list. This is a former Oklahoma State wrestler who is now into mixed martial arts, obviously. He is undefeated, he is 9-0, and he's taken on Preston Parsons. And what has Jacoby Smith done so well? So far in his MMA career, he's outstruck guys, but also again with that wrestling background, obviously training at an AKA, and obviously being a Big 12 wrestler, I really like Jacoby Smith as a prospect in this weight class. I think he should really handle Preston Parsons. Now, originally this fight was supposed to be Preston Parsons against Andreas Gustafsson. I don't think Gustafsson's nearly as good as Jacoby Smith. I think he probably would have beat Preston Parsons. But this is a good entry-level fight for Jacoby Smith. It is, right? Preston Parsons is a guy who's 2 and 3 in the UFC. He got victories over Evan Elder, Matthew Semmelsberger, and those are his only wins, right? And then 3 losses to Daniel Rodriguez, Trevin Giles, and Oban Elliott. Preston Parsons, he is really built around that wrestling game, obviously. If he's not able to effectively get fights down, he will lose. Like the Oban Elliott fight, right? Preston Parsons goes 1 for 9 on his takedowns in that fight. Elliott stuffs him, and Elliott's able to, again, outstrike him in that one, winning the second and third rounds, and I think the judge gave him the first as well, which I'm not mad at. Jacoby Smith should just handle Preston Parsons. I don't think Parsons is able to effectively get him down, and I think Jacoby Smith is the way better striker. Jacoby Smith has 7 wins so far by TKO in his professional mixed martial arts career, whether it be him finding a way to get the fight on the ground and then dominating and beating the crap out of Preston Parsons on the ground, or whether it just be a straight knockout. Jacoby Smith should win this fight fairly easily. He is about to turn 29 years old, which happens to be the same age as the Floridian and Preston Parsons, but again, Jacoby Smith, it does feel like he has a lot more hype around him, obviously, than a guy who's 2 and 3 in the UFC. I'm not saying they're going to skyrocket Jacoby Smith, but this is a prospect to watch out for here in 2025. Picking up a victory early in the year. Expect him to turn around a couple times this year and to get at least 3 fights in. I want to see Jacoby Smith active. I think he's a guy, again, who you can take outside of the UFC Apex. And I think he should be able to finish Preston Parsons in the first round. You look at his Contender Series victory. It is a second-round TKO victory over Christian Savy, I believe, Savoy. It was a fight where Jacoby Smith was a minus 700 favorite. Now, again, this fight just got announced, just like our opening fight between Aliev and Joe Solecki, because of Andreas Gustafsson's pullout, obviously. Originally, Parsons was a plus 170 dog against Gustafsson. I get it, Jacoby Smith is taking the fight out short notice, but I'd expect Jacoby Smith to be a minus 500 favorite. I know, again, there aren't odds yet, so that's why I'm saying this. I would expect minus 500 for Jacoby Smith, and I'd expect, plus 420, plus 400 in that range for Preston Parsons. Parsons has a pathway to victory. I just think it's a very tough pathway. Just because, again, Jacoby Smith defensively is really good at what Parsons is good at, and then Jacoby Smith just hasn't beat on the feet as well. Honestly, I could see Jacoby Smith taking down Preston Parsons and really just dominating the fight once it hits the mat as well, once Jacoby Smith is top positioning. So I like Jacoby Smith wherever this fight goes. I think he's the much better guy. I'm taking Jacoby Smith to pick up the victory. We like him to get it again by first round TKO. Let's go into the lightweight division. I think it's a step up in competition for Trey Ogden. He's taking on Thiago Moises. Ogden's coming off back-to-back wins against Kurt Holloway and then Loic Radzhabov in his last fight. And for Thiago Moises, I know he's coming off a loss to Ludovic Kline. That fight was in June of last year. But it does still feel like somewhat of a step up in competition for Ogden, going from guys like, again, Kurt Holloway, who's a borderline UFC name. I get the Radzhabov victory is a good win, but I don't know, I feel like it's a step up for Ogden, and I don't really think he's able to win this one, if I'm being honest. I do think this is a Thiago Moises victory. It just kind of feels like that. Again, it's a step up for Ogden, but really everything Ogden does, I'll be honest with you, I just think Moises does better. I think the only... Ogden might have him beat pure wrestling, maybe, but Moises hasn't beat everywhere else. On the feet, Moises hasn't beat, and in terms of jiu-jitsu, Moises hasn't beat as well. It just, again, it feels... I guess it's a levels fight. But again, it's just, I think Ogden's just a slightly worse version of Moises. And he's an older version too. Again, Ogden hasn't been in the UFC for nearly as long as Moises. Actually, Moises came off of Contender Series Brazil, but that was 2018. Ogden, what, 2020? No, Mace debuted in 2022. Wow. Yeah, so again, Ogden just hasn't been in the UFC for as long. But Moises is the much more experienced guy. He's obviously ranked higher, or treated as a higher ranked fighter than Ogden. Ogden's older, but again, that's not going to help him. He's just an older version of Moises, and Moises is more experienced, and Moises again is just better and has fought better competition. Seriously, I don't know how Ogden wins. I think Ogden's only pathway to success is wrestling Moises and just trying to hold top position and ride out a decision, and hope Moises again can't sweep him. Moises can't throw up submissions. I really think that's Ogden's only pathway to victory here. I'm just going to be honest with you. Moises has the striking, and Moises has got the jiu-jitsu as well. Right, you look at what Moises has done, right? He picked up the TKO victory over Mitch Ramirez in 2024 to kick off the year. He was able to just kick out the legs of Ramirez in that fight, again, winning it by leg kicks in the beginning of the third round. Again, capped off the year, I guess, in the summer by losing to Ludovic Kline. He got Benoit Saint-Denis in 2023, lost that fight, beat Melk Costa before that by submission. Again, beat Gadzhiyasulov. Like, when you look at Moises' fight since 2021, the fights that he loses are guys that are, again, just expected to beat him. Makhachev, Joel Alvarez, Benoit Saint-Denis, Ludovic Kline, and his wins are just guys that are way beneath him. Let's just be honest. Gadzhiyasulov, Melk Costa, Mitch Ramirez, and I don't think Ogden is way beneath Moises, but it is just a fight that you look at it on paper, you think, all right, Moises should definitely get Trey Ogden. And that's obviously where we're going in this one. I do like Thiago Moises to pick up the victory. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. Again, everywhere on the ground, on the feet, the only advantage I would give to Ogden in this fight is through the pure wrestling. Everywhere else, I like the Brazilian. I like Thiago Moises out of American Top Team, obviously down there in Coconut Creek, Florida. Give me Thiago Moises to beat Trey Ogden. He will get it done by unanimous decision. Let's move on to our next fight. We go to the middleweight division. Poteria's down now. We've got Marco Tulio taking on Ihor Potieria. So a lot of fights again, a lot of fighters coming off the Contender Series making their debut on this card. Here's another one, obviously, in Marco Tulio. He gets Ihor Potieria. I hate to say this about fighters, but this is likely Poteria's last fight in the UFC. I'll be honest, I don't know how he's still in the promotion. He is a 2-5 UFC fighter. His wins are Robert Brysek in a fight where Potieria did miss weight, and it was a very disappointing outcome from Brysek. It was really bad. And then his other win is Shogun Rua. Okay. Shogun Rua in the big 2023. Yeah. Poteria's losses are Nikolai Negamerianu, Carlos Olberg, Rodolfo Bellato, Michel Pereira, which was a weird step up in competition. I don't know why they gave Poteria that fight. I understand it. Why? Okay, I do get it. They wanted Michel Pereira to win in Brazil on the pay-per-view main card. And then Poteria just lost in Salt Lake City to Cesar Almeida, who we're going to see later on in this card. Poteria just got outstruck in that one, tried to wrestle, didn't really do much with it. Yeah, and Poteria's outmatched in this fight. Marco Tulio is a guy who's 12-1 professionally, coming off 2 wins in the Contender Series, winning in 2023 against... I don't know how to say his name. The nickname's the Babyface Assassin. He's Pereira's guy over there in Connecticut. He won again on the Contender Series this year. Didn't get a contract, but Tulio beat him in 2023, won a fight in LFA, and then ended up beating Matthew Duclos by spinning back kick in August to punch his ticket into the UFC. His only loss to Alexandre Silva back in September of 2018. Okay. But Tulio's a really good striker. Poteria is going to have a lot of trouble dealing with this. I really think so. Also, Ihor Poteria is 0-3 against Brazilians since ending the career of Shogun Rua and doing a Fortnite dance over his unconscious body. So, the curse of Shogun and the ghost of Shogun Rua is going to continue to haunt Ihor Poteria, because Marco Tulio's knocking him out in the first round. He's just the much better striker. There's really not much else to say. He's a much better striker than the Ukrainian in Poteria, who's 2-5 in the UFC, who's been knocked out by Olberg, knocked out by Negamerianu, knocked out by Bellato, submitted in the first round by Pereira, and then Almeida couldn't finish him but still beat him. This is the fight, unfortunately, for the Ukrainian in Poteria that sent him out the promotion. This is an easy victory for Marco Tulio. Again, the UFC looked at their board in the war room and said, all right, who's a fight that we can get our, up-and-coming Brazilian guy coming off the Contender Series in Tulio? Who's a guy we can get him to beat right away? It's Ihor Poteria. This is everything Robert Brysek was supposed to do in his UFC debut in Ihor's first fight in 2024. If I have to give Ihor credit anywhere, is that he's very active. He fights all the time. Unfortunately, he's not the best cage fighter. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm taking the Brazilian. We're taking Marco Tulio to win the fight. And Ihor Poteria will now go to 0-4 against Brazilians since knocking out and ending the career of Shogun Rua. We are taking Marco Tulio to beat the Ukrainian Ihor Poteria by first round knockout. Let's go to the the flyweight division. Jose Johnson versus Felipe Bunes. That was not an insult to the flyweight division, by the way. That's an insult at Jose Johnson. I'm sorry. He's 6 feet tall and 125 pounds. Guys, what the hell? How? As someone who is over 6 feet tall, how are you 125 pounds? Legitimately. I don't know how it's... okay, the picture doesn't do Jose Johnson justice. I mean, you can't, really tell, how skinny this guy is. He's 6 feet tall. And fights at 125 pounds. How is this possible? I don't get it, man. It's just... He's probably going to win, too. Here's the thing. He'll beat Felipe Bunes. How did Bunes get in the UFC? Who does Felipe Bunes know? Pitbull? But Pitbull's not even in the UFC. Who is, how did he get in the UFC? How did Bunes get in the UFC? I legitimately don't know. Because, okay, sure, he was the LFA champion. He won one fight, never even defended the LFA championship, and then immediately got a chance to fight Gadzhiyasulov. Bunes had to pull out, and then he got Josh Van on the first card last year in 2024 and lost to Josh Van. And you now go an entire year and he's going to fight Jose Johnson. He's 35 years old at 125 pounds. Guys, when Jussier Formiga went to LFA after the UFC cut him, I kind of get why they cut him. I don't know. He is 39 now. His first fight in LFA was Felipe Bunes, and it was kind of a struggle for Formiga, I'll be honest. But eventually, he found a way to that submission in the second round. Bunes went on a 3-fight losing streak prior to that, losing an ACA 3 fights in a row. He wins one fight in LFA by split decision, then gets a title shot, wins by knockout, and all of a sudden he's in the UFC, doesn't even have to fight the contender. Like, how does this happen? How? Jose Johnson, don't get me started. Don't get me started. 16-9. He's 6 feet tall and fights at 125 pounds. And he beat Jack Cartwright, who was an undefeated prospect at the time, and Jack Cartwright has not been the same since. Jose Johnson's 1-2 in the UFC. He loses to Damon Blackshear. He gets twisted. And then he beats Chadian Helliger, who's not very good. And then he loses to Asu Ambayev by unanimous decision. Ambayev wasn't able to finish him, but Ambayev just was able to ride it on the ground the entire fight against Jose Johnson. Felipe Bunes, I guess he can grapple. I guess. I don't know. I just... Here's the comp I'll make. Here's the comp. Felipe Bunes and Chadian Helliger. Who's better? Legitimately. Maybe I take Ann Helliger, seriously. So, Jose Johnson beat Ann Helliger. Yeah, Chad took him down. Eventually, Jose Johnson found his way to the submission, but Jose Johnson was really easily winning that fight on the feet. I mean, hell, he's got a 71-inch reach at flyweight, which is actually the same as Felipe Bunes. What? You're 6 feet tall. 71.5, so slightly more than Bunes, but just... Jose Johnson's confusing, man. It really is. 1, I don't know how he makes the weight. 2, he's 6 feet tall, but he's the same reach as a 5'7" guy. And Felipe Bunes, he just have short arms? I mean, This is confusing, man. Oh, God. I'd stay away from the fight personally, but yeah, I'd take Jose Johnson. Jose Johnson's the minus 225 favorite. I'd expect him to beat Bunes by unanimous decision. Bunes, just simply put, it just isn't that good. He's not that good. I don't think Johnson's the best either. Hell, he's 16-9, but he's better than Bunes, who I don't even know why he's here. Okay, so we're going with the American. Give me Jose Johnson, the 6 foot tall flyweight, to pick up his second win in the UFC. Give me Johnson to win a unanimous decision victory over Felipe Bunes. Let's go to the welterweight division. It is our main card opener here for the first card of 2025. We have got the Hawaiian Punahele Soriano taking on the Serbian Laskin in Uros Medic. Puna Soriano coming off a big victory in his last fight over Miguel Baeza. It was a fight between two guys who were once very hyped up prospects. The UFC said, you know what, both of you aren't hyped up anymore. Let's salvage one of you two guys. Someone's got to win. It was Puna Soriano winning by unanimous decision in a fight where, I kid you not, he outstruck Miguel Baeza 144-7. Now, he was just taking down Baeza and just beating the absolute hell out of him on the ground. That was a horrible punch. But yeah, it's tough to see where Baeza went, honestly, after, that, momentous start to his UFC run. Fought Ponzinibbio, wasn't the same. We're going to get to Ponzinibbio later on in this card. Yeah, Puna beats Miguel Baeza. He's not beating Uros Medic. This is I don't want to call it a levels fight, but I just don't think Puna's very good, guys. Yeah, he beat Baeza. Who are Puna's wins in the UFC? Okay. Oscar Peota. Who? Yeah. Dusko Todorovic. All right, Dusko's not the best. That was undefeated versus undefeated. That was the first ever UFC fight on ABC, by the way. Brendan Allen. Okay, that's a loss. Obviously, Nick Maximov beat him. Maximov had a short leash in the UFC. Dalcho Lugiambula is a win for Puna Soriano. Great. Roman Kopylov beat him. Not a bad loss. Dustin Stolfsus. Ugh. Stolfsus, I get it. Sometimes can stay competitive in fights, oddly enough. Beats Marc-Andre Barrio and knocks him out. But the Baeza victory for Soriano is good, I guess. Uros Medic's just a much better fighter. Uros Medic coming off of that win over Tim Means, where he knocked Means out in the first round in April of 2024. Lost to Mirzabek Orblai, but it is what it is. You know, Orblai's not horrible. Medic beats Matthew Semmelsberger before that, spinning back elbow. TKO victory over Omar Morales. Did lose to Jalen Turner, but it is what it is. Beats Alon Cruz in his UFC debut. Medic just has way more power on the feet weight, got way more pop on his shots. Puna probably will try to take down Medic. I just don't think he'll be all that successful. I mean, Orblai was really successful in taking down Medic, but guys, Puna Soriano's grappling game is nowhere near the grappling game of Mirzabek Orblai. Uros Medic should be able to keep this fight standing, and Uros Medic should just be able to punch his face in. Again, you're coming off a first-round knockout victory for Medic. I get it. It's against a 40-year-old dirty bird Tim Means. I understand. But hell, he's been able to, knocked out Semmelsberger as a plus 180 dog. Was an underdog against Omar Morales and knocked him out. Uros Medic, again, trained by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. I do think the Alaskan here, the Serbian-Alaskan Uros Medic does just take care of Puna Soriano pretty easily. Soriano's got a puncher's chance, sure, but really, again, Puna's not the guy we thought he was. Sure, he's coming off a victory, that's great. And I think, again, he will try to parlay that success that he saw in the Baeza fight with this fight in Medic, in terms of, I think Puna will probably try to wrestle Medic because, if it was successful against against Baeza, it might be successful against Uros Medic. I don't really see it. I think Medic should just be able to outstrike him, and I do think Uros Medic cleans this one up fairly easily. I think he knocks out Puna Soriano, and I think he makes quick work of him. Give me Uros Medic, the doctor, Uros Medic, to beat Puna Heli Soriano, and he will get it done in the first round. We move on to the featherweight division. C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez, is a plus 195 underdog, plus 205 underdog against the minus 250 favorite in the American making his UFC debut, the 13-0 undefeated Austin Bashi, coming in from West Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Interesting odds. I'll be honest, really interesting. I thought this would be more of a pick'em, if I'm being honest, but at the same time, when you think about it, okay, I get it. C-Rod's up a weight class, obviously, now, right? He's got to fight at 145 because he couldn't make weight at 135 once a really, dangerous prospect at 135 pounds. Goes up to 145, barely gets by Isaac Dulgarian. Did he win that fight? I don't know. It was close. And then, he loses to Juicy J, Julian Erosa. Erosa submits him on the Namajunas Cortez fight card in Denver earlier this year, and all that momentum C-Rod had, beating Cameron Simon, beating the undefeated Cameron Simon and the undefeated Raul Rosas. By the way, why is Carl's Jr. trying to scam us out of the Chiwiwis meal? I went to Carl's Jr., asked them for the Chiwiwis meal, and they didn't know what I was talking about. It's ridiculous. I just want my Chiwiwis burger sponsored by Raul Rosas Jr. It's ridiculous. Or promoted, I guess, by Raul Rosas Jr. But hey, shout out to Carl's Jr. They got me to drive to the only one in the area, and only for them to say, oh, we don't have that. Would you like an $18 hamburger instead? Nah, I'm good. C-Rod, again, beats two undefeated guys, can't make weight, though, and then goes up a weight, loses as a minus 250 favorite to Julian Erosa. We're off C-Rod now. We're off him. Why? Because Austin Bashi kind of does everything better than Christian Rodriguez. At least, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. He's got a win over Askar in 2023. That's a good victory in the regional scenes. Beats Zach Riley, 9-6 guy. Beats an 8-2 Dorian Ramos on the Contender Series. But here's the thing. I really think Austin Bashi is just going to be able to out-wrestle C-Rod. Guys, Dulgarian out-wrestled C-Rod, who I think Rodriguez is small for 145 pounds. He's really a 135-pounder who just can't make that weight. He's like a Kelvin Gastelum down here at 145 pounds. He should be fighting 35. He just can't make the weight. So Bashi, who is a much more, natural 145-pounder, he is 5'6", but at least, again, you look at build-wise, he's a much more natural 145-pounder. Should be able to see a lot of success wrestling C-Rod. Hell, again, if Dulgarian saw success doing that, I know, again, Erosa took him down once, but Erosa, again, fighting that guillotine choke, guys are able to wrestle Christian Rodriguez, especially at 145 pounds. Hell, when JSP, Jonathan Pierce, beat Christian Rodriguez, it was because of the wrestling game that Pierce had. I'd expect Austin Austin Bashi to really wrestle Christian Rodriguez in this fight, and I'd expect him to just really win this fight on the ground. Hell, you look at Bashi's victory in the Contender Series. He wins it by rear naked choke in the second round. 10 for 15 on his takedown attempts against Dorian Ramos. Bashi is a guy with an endless cardio, with an endless gas tank. I think it's going to be really difficult for Christian Rodriguez to win this fight. Do I think he gets subbed? Honestly, yeah. I'm taking Austin Bashi to win this fight by second round submission. He's a young fighter, 23 years old, but really, I like the cardio, I like the wrestling, and I think he's able to effectively grapple too. Again, we were able to see him win by second round submission on the Contender Series. I think he does the same exact thing, especially a Christian Rodriguez who's coming off a submission loss to Julian Erosa as well. I get it again, Erosa caught him in a guillotine, but still, I do think Bashi's able to dominantly wrestle this fight, and I do think he's able to find a submission as well. Again, I will keep saying this. Christian Rodriguez is an undersized 145-pounder, but he simply just can't make 135 pounds. He cannot make bantamweight. That should be his weight class. He just can't make it. So we're going with Austin Bashi to win this fight. I like him to beat Christian Rodriguez, and he'll get it done by second round submission. Let's go to the middleweight division. We have got Chris Curtis, the action man, taking on Roman Kopylov. What a build this fight has had. I hope the UFC mentions it because it's hilarious. Chris Curtis went on Twitter and kept saying about how Roman Kopylov sent Russian spies to Extreme Couture to spy on his camp. I kid you not. And for a week, I bought it. Chris Curtis, even this is like around Christmas. Chris Curtis posts a picture of, they're after day of training, obviously. They're all, posted up. And, there's two Russian guys, and Curtis, circles them and says, hey, these are the Russian spies. These are Kopylov's guys. And I'm like, all right, if he actually found, these are, Russian guys who don't usually train Extreme Couture. They're from the same camp as Kopylov. I bought it. And then I saw a week later, Chris Curtis says, whoops. Nah, those actually weren't spies. My bad, guys. All love Roman Kopylov. I don't know if he said that, but okay. I just think the build is really interesting to this fight. Roman Kopylov should beat Chris Curtis. And trust me, I pick Chris Curtis in a lot of his fights. I am a big action man guy, even though he just cries on Twitter every time he loses a fight. Now, okay. Full transparency, I thought he'd beat Brendan Allen. I really thought he'd beat Brendan Allen. I think it's kind of stupid he didn't get that decision. I was pretty mad. I got Chris Curtis plus 250. I got him plus 250 at the beginning of the week. He should have won that fight, man. That was ridiculous. Now, Chris Curtis coming off that injury that he suffered at the end of the Brendan Allen fight. What will he be going into the Kopylov fight? I don't know, but I just think Kopylov's a better striker than Curtis. Kopylov's been pretty good. He did lose to Anthony Hernandez. He got submitted in that fight, but Anthony Hernandez is an animal. Again, we saw, a couple months ago how he was just able to break Michel Pereira in the Apex. Hernandez is a dog. He's a guy that's going to be in the top 10 for a very long time. This is a pure striking fight. And Kopylov is a really good boxer with crisp hands. Sometimes for Curtis, he just takes a while to get going. He just does. He does have power. I'll give him that. But Curtis just does take a while to get going. That's why I liked him in a 5-round fight against Brendan Allen, because okay, we give Chris Curtis 5 rounds. So he doesn't have to get going and have an excellent start in the first, because again, he's got 5 rounds to work with. This is a 3-round fight against Roman Kopylov, a guy who will go for it, and a guy who will find knockouts very quickly in a fight. That's why I think it's really tough on Chris Curtis to win this one, I'm going to be honest. Also, I just think Kopylov's a better striker. Right? Look what Kopylov's done recently, right? Victory over Cesar Almeida. Wasn't able to get a finish. Didn't wrestle Almeida a lot, but honestly, that's the pathway to beat Cesar Almeida. It just is. And we'll get to Cesar Almeida in just a few moments. But that's how you beat him. And Kopylov, knocked down Almeida in that fight, but did wrestle him at the same time. That if you're gonna beat Cesar Almeida, that's how you're gonna do it. After that, Kopylov, he lost to Anthony Hernandez, beat Josh Fremd, Claudio Ribeiro, knocked him out, knocked out Fremd, knocked out Bunes Soriano, knocked out Alessio Di Chirico, right? The guy's got pop on his shots. Chris Curtis, I think Chris Curtis' chin's been pretty good, honestly. He got put out cold by Ray Cooper in PFL, but that was 2019, which is now 6 years ago. So I don't really think that's too much of a thing. Curtis's chin's bad. He has been knocked out only once, actually. It was weird because he did retire after that fight. Yeah, he retired after losing to Ray Cooper because he got knocked out. He hasn't been knocked out since. So I don't think Kopylov is going to find a finish. I think it's going to be a decision victory for Roman Kopylov. We'll see if it's close enough to the point where Chris Curtis can complain on Twitter and say that he won the fight. Again, that's, this is all fun and games, obviously. I actually like Chris Curtis quite a bit. But I do think Kopylov just outstrikes Curtis in this fight. I think, again, everything Curtis does, Kopylov just does slightly better on the feet. Kopylov is just kind of a younger version of Curtis. He's a quicker striker. And yeah, Curtis's pop on his shots did knock out Joaquin Buckley, but Kopylov hits very hard as well. Hell, Curtis knocked out Brendan Allen in their first fight, too. Again, it is a step down for Curtis because he was fighting Brendan Allen in a main event in his last fight, but unfortunately for Curtis, this is the fight you have to take against an up-and-coming guy in Kopylov who's trying to break into the top 15. Curtis is ranked. This is a huge opportunity for Kopylov, and I think he takes advantage of it. Again, he was given the Hernandez fight last year, couldn't capitalize. I believe that was in Anaheim. I think this is a fight that he does crack into the top 15 with. I think he outstrikes Chris Curtis. I'm taking Roman Kopylov to be the action man. With or without Russian spies, I'm taking Roman Kopylov to pick up the victory by unanimous decision. We will stay in the middleweight division. Don't know how this fight's placed higher on the card than our last one, but it is Abdulrazak Alhassan taking on Cesar Almeida. Yeah, don't know how this fight's higher on the card because Roman Kopylov literally just beat Cesar Almeida. Who made the bout order? Honestly. All right. The question is, can Abdulrazak Alhassan take down Cesar Almeida? That would be something Razak Alhassan has not done in a fight since he lost to Joaquin Buckley, which is why I also thought Colby Covington could have beat Joaquin Buckley. Colby's washed, man. Colby's washed. Sucks. I don't think he's gonna be able to take down Almeida. Potieria was able to, but Cesar still won that fight. Like Almeida, okay, what he's getting better at, he's able to work back up to his base now. Like early in Almeida's UFC career, the Dylan Budka fight, right? Budka just held him down the entire first round, but Almeida was able to find the finish in the second, right? Almeida's a very dangerous striker. I think he does beat Abdulrazak Alhassan, who I didn't know was 39 years old now. He's been around for a while. He had that whole case where he was accused of, I can't say the word, I'll get demonetized. Accused of, who can I use? He was accused of a word that starts with an R and ends with an E. It was a false claim, which is ridiculous. So throw that woman in prison. I'm serious. That's what we should do to those people. It's ridiculous. You're ruining guys' careers. It's so stupid. But he's 39. He's had 12 fights and 13 fights in the UFC. Oh, he's coming off that win against... He should have beat Cody Brundage. How does Cody Brundage keep getting no contests? Oh, the back of my head. Oh, I'm about to lose, but it's a no contest. I can't keep fighting. How does Brundage keep doing it? Get this guy out of the UFC. I'm serious. Get Brundage out of here. Razak Alhassan should have got that win in Denver. It was stupid. And now he's got to fight Almeida, which is he's just kind of quicker than Abdulrazak Alhassan. Alhassan hits hard, but Almeida is just a quicker striker, and he's a bigger fighter as well. He's going to have a reach advantage. He's the taller fighter. That's why Almeida's a minus 300 favorite. That's why Abdulrazak Alhassan comes back at plus 240. Let's just be honest. That's what it is. And the books don't think Alhassan can take down Almeida. I don't really think so either. And if he does, Almeida's defensive wrestling and his ability to get back up has gotten a lot better. So I just don't think, if Abdul's able to get that takedown, he's able to lay on him. No, I think Almeida's going to get back up. And it's not like the Fortis MMA fighter and Abdulrazak Alhassan is that great of a wrestler either. He's not. Again, that Buckley fight was really weird. The Detroit Herbal Survival trading guy was there in the corner of Buckley too. But it was a really just odd fight. Is that the last time Abdulrazak Alhassan's taken anybody down? He got taken down against Munir Lazzez back in 2020, and then Sabah Hamasi back in 2017. Yeah, it's not what Abdulrazak Alhassan does. And we've seen Abdulrazak Alhassan chinned before. We saw him chinned in the fight against Chaos Williams. I know, again, he's been better since, but yeah, I think Almeida, again, where is this fight contested? Purely on the feet. We're taking the kickboxer then. Again, these are the type of fights Almeida can win. He's 36. What is really the future for him? Probably nowhere special. Again, he's an older fighter. He's 36 years old. But I'd expect him to easily handle Abdulrazak Alhassan. I like the striking game. I think he's able to keep distance. And I do think ultimately he's going to find a knockout. I'm going to take Cesar Almeida by first round knockout. Once Abdulrazak Alhassan realizes the distance, I think he's kind of screwed. And I think Almeida will chin him and put him out. So give me Cesar Almeida to win this fight in the feature bout over the Ghanaian. How do you say? What's the word for a person from Ghana? The fighter from Ghana, Abdulrazak Alhassan, obviously now by way of Arlington, Texas, and Fortis MMA. I'm taking those opponent in Cesar Almeida from Brazil. To the co-main event, we go to a pick'em fight. between the Argentine dagger, Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's won 1 out of his last 5 fights, who is 38 years old, against the 37-year-old Carlston Harris. We need to get some young blood, man. We need to get some young blood in some of these fights. I mean, hell, the feature bout in this fight, you got a 39-year-old versus a 36-year-old. This fight, we got a 38-year-old versus a 37-year-old. Get some younger fighters, man. Let's get the new wave in. God. I don't know, man. This is a weird fight. I kind of want to take Ponzinibbio, honestly. I don't know. This is the one I'm split on. Again, I told you at the beginning of the video, I go over all these fights before I start the video. I think, all right, like, I'll probably pick him. I'll pick him. This one, I'm like, I don't know. I initially was going to take Carlston Harris, but I might take Santiago Ponzinibbio. Carlston Harris coming off a loss to Chaos Williams where he got knocked out in May of last year. Only fought once in 2024 as that knockout loss. In 2023, back-to-back wins over Jared Gooden and Jeremiah Wells. Ponzinibbio is kind of washed, but, like, I don't know. Is Ponzinibbio really losing to Carlston Harris? That's just really the question we have to ask ourselves. Because Ponzinibbio's losses, for, again, as much as he's been losing, he's lost 4 or 5. We talked about his fight earlier in the video against Miguel Baeza, where he just really, ruined any progression of the game of Miguel Baeza. Took Baeza to a 3-round war, beat Baeza, ended up outstriking him 121 to 104 in that fight. But what has Ponzinibbio done since? Again, we talked about the effects that's had on Miguel Baeza. Hell, the effects that's had on Santiago Ponzinibbio has been rough, right? Losing to Jeff Neal by split decision. Arguably should have won that fight. Lost to Michel Pereira by split decision. I thought he lost that one. Alex Morono finishes him in the 3rd round of a pay-per-view main card on UFC 282. Lose to Kevin Holland by knockout, and then loses a split decision to Muslim Salikov. What do we get out of this fight against Carlston Harris, a guy who is 4-2 in the UFC, who hasn't fought the same level of competition, but at the same time has fought now former world champion Impa Kasanganay, potential future world champion Shavkat Rakhmonov, Bilal beats him, and then Jared Gooden, Jeremiah Wells, Chaos Williams. He got chinned by Chaos Williams. Does he find a way to beat Santiago Ponzinibbio? I'm going to go no. I'm going to take Ponzinibbio to win the fight by unanimous decision. I know, again, we might look at Ponzinibbio as kind of washed, but when has Carlston Harris ever been better than Santiago Ponzinibbio? Right? Like, okay, yeah, Ponzinibbio's old, he's 38. Carlston Harris is only 9 months younger. He's 37, which is kind of weird because it feels like Carlston Harris kind of just got here, like 5 years ago. Ponzinibbio's been around for at least 10, right? I mean, he's been in main events before, obviously. I'm going to take Ponzinibbio to win the fight by unanimous decision. I would stay away. I think this is kind of just a striking fight that I think, again, both guys are just kind of, trying to find the range. I think Ponzinibbio just does it more effectively than Carlston Harris. Obviously, again, the experience is on the side of the Argentinian, again, training on a Coconut Creek, Florida, an American top team. I do think Ponzinibbio gets it. On the ground, that's where Carlston Harris will have an advantage, but Ponzinibbio's dealt with a lot of good grapplers before. I think, again, whatever the Guyanan fighter and Carlston Harris presents to Ponzinibbio, I don't think it's anything Ponzinibbio hasn't seen before. And I do think Ponzinibbio is able to handle Carlston Harris in this fight. I will take the Argentine dagger in Santiago Ponzinibbio to beat Carlston Harris, and I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. Let's go on to our main event. Oh, it's the fight we've all been waiting for, guys. The weigh-in might have more views than the actual fight. We've got Mackenzie Dern taking on Amanda Ribas. I'm going with Ribas again. Guys, Mackenzie Dern's not good at fighting. I don't care. Mackenzie Dern is not a good fighter. I don't care what anybody says. She lost to Lupi Godinez. That was a crap decision. Mackenzie Dern is a bad fighter. She is just jiu-jitsu, and if she can't get the fight down, she is a sitting duck. Lupi Godinez won that fight. She won the 2nd and 3rd rounds. I don't understand. Dern is not that good at striking. Ribas will piece her on the feet. On the ground, sure, it really only takes one takedown from Mackenzie Dern, but Amanda Ribas is not that bad of a grappler. She did take down Rose Namajunas 4 times in their main event spot last year in the spring, but I do think Ribas, again, is able to keep this fight standing, and I just think Ribas punches Dern's face in. Like, there is no chance in hell Amanda Ribas loses a striking fight to Mackenzie Dern, because if that happens, I don't know what to say about the Ultimate Fighting Championship anymore, right? I mean, they've already done us horribly that this is the first main event of 2025. I mean, again, next week, banger of a card, obviously. I mean, my goodness. Mahashev Sarukian too. Marab, Umar, great card. We get Jaitan Almeida on the undercard. We get Prohashka versus Jamal Hill. It's a great card in the Intuit Dome. I want to go to that card, but then you check the tickets and it's $700 to get in the building. I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll spend like, oh, $400. I'll think about spending $400 on that card. Nope, $700 to go to UFC. I'll watch that on my TV. Thank you. RIP meth and crack streams. RIP. We'll find a way. Streamies will come through. No, I mean, I'm paying for it, obviously. You know, I always pay for all the cards. I just, I spend $80 a month to watch the UFC. Totally. I do it every month. Yeah, I think Ribas beats Mackenzie Dern, though. Again, I just don't think Dern's that good at fighting. I'm serious. Dern is not that good. I will continue to say that. She's not a good fighter. She just has jiu-jitsu. She just has grappling. But Amanda Ribas beat her the first time. And I get it again. It was the first fight Mackenzie Dern had since giving birth. It was, you got to go back to, oh God, when was this card? It was a while ago. UFC on ESPN Plus 19. Joanna versus Watterson. You remember when Michelle Watterson was in a #1 contenders fight? Yep. Neither do I. No, yeah, this was back in October of 2019. It was Ribas' second fight in the UFC. Dern was coming off of giving birth, and Dern just was not active in that fight. She could not do anything. Ribas actually took her down a couple times. Ribas outstruck her 5-1, basically, and Amanda Ribas dominated the fight. I'm not saying this fight's going to go like that one, obviously. I think, was that at one? No, it was 15, I think. Or was it 125? It might be 125. No, it was at 15. Okay. But I think Ribas, again, just outstrikes Mackenzie Dern in this fight. I think Ribas is just, Dern's wrestling is not good. Sometimes she'll get lucky. Her opponent will, slip on a banana peel, or like Randa Marcos will take her down and she'll find a way to a submission. Like, yes, or sometimes she'll get lucky and the judges and, Abu Dhabi will give her a decision over Lupe Godinez. Like, that'll happen sometimes, but I think Ribas is too good of a fighter to just mess up and say, you know what? I'll just go down. Let's see. I'll try to fight off my back. Here, I'm gonna throw punches off my back and I'll take my arm bar. Like, no. Ribas is a good enough fighter. I want to believe so. 7-4 in the UFC, right? Lost to Namajunas, beat Luana Pinedo, spinning wheel kick, lost to Macy Barber, Gillian Kupchagian, lost to Viana Araujo, win over Vina Jandiroba. That's actually aging pretty well back in 2021. Ribas is an actual cage fighter. Mackenzie Dern is a jiu-jitsu fighter who's not that good at mixed martial arts. I'm just going to be honest. Right, you look at the odds for this fight. Amanda Ribas -220, Mackenzie Dern +180. The picks on Tapology, 63% going Mackenzie Dern, 37% going Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas is an actual MMA fighter. She's not losing to Mackenzie Dern again. Well, she's gonna beat her again. She's not losing the second fight. We're going with Amanda Ribas to win the rematch between two Brazilian fighters. I think Amanda Ribas gets it done. She'll beat Mackenzie Dern, and she'll win this fight again by unanimous decision by not allowing this fight to go to the ground and just punching Mackenzie Dern's face in. Dern did not beat Lupe Godinez in a striking fight in her last fight, and she certainly won't beat Amanda Ribas in a striking fight. Give me Ribas, as long as she doesn't do anything stupid, to win the fight by unanimous decision. And folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC predictions here for the first card of 2025 in the UFC Apex between Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas in the main event. If you have not yet though, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.